What's good in the hood, YouTube? This is Crazy Samurai 71 here, bringing you another video. Today's video is a video on Transformers Robots in Disguise, episode 9. This episode is entitled Rumble in the Jungle. So the episode starts off with Strong Arm going on her first solo mission. Well, solo to an extent. Let's just say this much. It's not. I mean, it is, but it isn't. What happens is that B finally agrees to give her a solo mission, though he's not very confident in her ability, it seems, to an extent. What ends up happening is that Fix-It is told to constantly monitor Strong Arm to just make sure that Strong Arm is safe and everything's going well and that things are working out properly. Strong Arm is really excited, thinks that if she does this well, she might get promoted to a higher position, which could be good, which won't happen. So I'm just gonna say this right away: it won't happen in this episode if it does happen at all. I'm gonna say that right up front. Not happening. So anyway, following this, Strong Arm ends up continuing to go around doing her mission, and we find out that B has been tailing Strong Arm this whole entire time because B really doesn't trust her to the same extent that he might trust someone else, because he cares for her and he feels responsible for her, since, you know, he's the reason why they're on Earth in reality. And so he feels responsible for her and he worries about her. Anyway, following this, what happens is that Strong Arm's kind of annoyed at the fact that B did this, and it makes sense. On the other hand, though, we end up seeing that what would you say? What would you call it? We end up seeing that this episode also has another focus, which is Fix-It, and a character which wasn't really spoken about in the previous episode, Danny. Danny is going to get a decent focus on this episode, as well as Fix-It. So the thing that starts off here is that Danny, as you may have seen in previous episodes, has been trying to use some of the Cybertronian technology to do certain things. The thing is that, you know, Danny is not from Cybertron, so he has no real background in any of the technology, so he's trying things, but he doesn't really know what he's doing. At the same time, Fix-It's not much better in regards to the fact that Fix-It works really slow, but he does know the technology. So, but Danny's pretty handy at the same time. So there's that huge conflict, right? And this is where this whole entire concept's addressed in regard to the fact that they really don't trust each other at times, yet in reality, if they work together, they'd be an amazing team. So this episode has that theme going, where suddenly they're fighting each other and they're arguing about certain points about technology and how, oh, you can't do this, or whatever, and this results in lots of fighting that happens. In the meantime, though, Strong Arm ends up going in search of the going on the mission, and we find out that B really is going to trail her. Strong Arm gets annoyed, but B says, all right, I'm not gonna be annoying anymore, but what I will say is that I will let you have your solo mission, but I will act as an observer. So, meaning that he'll just be there, but he won't be, you know, necessarily getting in on much of the action, if any. And at that point, really, it was uncertain as to what the mission was. Eventually, though, they end up traveling through this area that appears to be the jungle, which is referred to in the title, you know, Rumble in the Jungle. And you're wondering, what about this rumble that you're referring to? Well, we find out that there's this Decepticon, which resembles a frog that is going through the jungle looking for the lost city of Dorados. Now, you may be wondering, what is this Decepticon? Why does he matter? What's he about? Well, This Decepticon is referred to as an amphibioid, which makes perfect sense because he resembles a frog, so amphibioid makes perfect sense. He apparently is an insane character due to the fact that, you know how you probably have seen shows where you have those nutty people that believe in spirits and creatures and all that stuff. So he believes in the lost city of Dorados, which is the city it's similar to like the lost city of Atlantis, or one of the or the idea of like and the thing is that in this city, Dorados is supposed to have the fountain of Energon, which is supposed to basically be it's supposed to be the equivalent to the fountain of youth, more or less. So in regard to the fact that it's supposed to give you infinite power and infinite energy, and it's very similar in that regard. And overall, it sort of sounds like it's meant to be that kind of connection. So he's supposed to kind of represent that kind of superstitious idea where, oh, supposedly there's this city, and so he speaks to all these statues, and he believes the spirits are actual beings and all that around him because they're in some jungle that has all these statues and relics everywhere, and he's a relic hunter. So the thing is that Springload's a pretty interesting character for that reason, and he doesn't seem like the most significant character, and overall I'm not really sure. I mean, overall, he's a pretty minor character, it feels like. It really didn't feel like the most exciting Decepticon by any means. I mean, the majority of the previous Decepticon were a lot more exciting than he was, and yeah, I'd definitely say that. I mean, he's probably one of the most boring, not so interesting characters overall, and to be honest with you, he's one of the minor ones that, you know, doesn't feel like he's gonna get anywhere or is gonna really be involved later in the show, but who knows, we'll see. Anyway, following this, there's more conflict that happens back at the base with Danny and Fix-It, where, you know, they're mixing up each other's items. Like, for example, Danny is messing around with Fix-It's command center, while Fix-It is screwing around with all the scrapyard stuff and moving it all around and screwing up the locations of things. So there's that kind of conflict going on, and they're just all fighting each other, and it's just not going well. I mean, it's just not good. I mean, it just really isn't good. Eventually, though, Strong Arm and B, on the other hand, continue to follow this Decepticon known as Springload, and Springload has a vehicle mode. It resembles kind of like a small Jeep or truck or something like that. It's fairly small, and you may think to yourself, well, that doesn't sound that frightening, and to be honest with you, he doesn't really look that frightening. The thing is that the idea with him is the fact that he has a special defense mechanism, meaning that if you touch him, there will be acid that will interact with a bot's body and will burn a bot's body. So not a bot that you want to, you know, have a close combat, not a bot that you want to do close combat fighting with. It's more of a bot you want to, you know, do long range battles with, where you're using a gun or you're using something that can shoot a projectile or something like that. You're not gonna be, you don't want to have something, you don't want to do, like, you know, close combat. So anyway, following this, they fight a little bit, and there's a whole entire scene with that, and eventually, over time, they end up getting into this temple where Springload is trying to speak to the spirits again, trying to find the city of Dorados. And what ends up happening is that Springload ends up being attacked by Strongarm, which Strongarm does try to touch Springload, and she gets burned, and she gets thrown across the wall. Actually, she ends up being kicked, even better not. So anyway, following this, she's shot against a wall or whatever by Springload, and Springload runs off. And the thing is that one thing I forgot to mention was the whole idea that B ends up sending a message telling Fix-It to get some reinforcements, which really annoys Strongarm, because Strongarm wanted to do that because it was her solo mission and B's doing her stuff, and so she even calls off the reinforcements, basically saying that basically for the reasons of she feels that he doesn't really trust her and it's not good. And it's a fair point, and but at the same time it is a bit ridiculous. But anyway, what happens is that they have they get into this temple at one point, and the temple gets destroyed due to the fight with Springload and Strongarm and B and all that, which eventually leads to the temple almost beginning to collapse, and Strongarm notices that Springload escapes through a hole, while at the same time that results in her getting the idea that maybe she should shoot a wall and maybe they can escape through a hole also. And Springload thinks, oh, there's no way that they could escape. But they do, and they end up tailing Springload. The thing is that then B is annoyed because now they have to do a direct confrontation, meaning that they have to go with attack Springload personally without the reinforcements. The thing is that he doesn't know that she called off the reinforcements, and when he finds out, he's really annoyed at her and says, You're really just causing trouble. And she says, okay, just give me one more chance. I know I screwed up a bunch. I get it. I'm sorry. And he gives her this last chance, but he's furious. He's furious with her at this point. So anyway, back at the base though, there's a lot of fighting going on still. People are messing with each other's technology. People are hiding things from each other. I mean, Danny tries to manipulate the Decepticon hunter at one point. Eventually, at one point, Fix-It ends up messing with Danny's TV and changing it so that all it shows is all the criminals that they've captured so far or have seen so far in the show. I mean, Underbite's even shown, which, in the previous episode, Underbite was taken. If you want to look back in the previous episode. But anyway, what happens is that this time what happens is that what do you call it? They do all this fighting, and eventually there is a compromise that is met. I just want to get into what happens with Danny and Fix-It. Eventually, Rusty is really annoyed about how they're fighting each other, and Rusty creates a situation alongside Grimlock and Sideswipe where they basically mess around with the Decepticon hunter and put inside of it a kazoo. You may think to yourself, why a kazoo? Why does that matter? In the beginning of the episode, which is something I know I'm forgetting, like small points here and there, there was a kazoo which was used to Grimlock thought that a kazoo was it's so weird. Grimlock thought that the kazoo was Cybertronian technology. It's obviously not. And when Rusty ends up blowing into it, says like, no, it's not. It's just a kazoo. And then Grimlock gets scared or whatever. And so it's kind of a reference to that. There's a lot of references that tend to happen that are like plot devices, and this is like sort of like a plot device, I guess you could say. So anyway, it's in there, and this was meant to basically make the two of them work together, because if the Decepticon hunter explodes, I mean, if they don't get it to work properly, it will explode. If it does work properly, then they can remove it, no big deal, no problems at all. So they have to work together at that point. Anyway, this does help them work as a team, and after the fact, they don't get angry at each other, and they actually this eventually leads to them realizing that maybe they could work together, and this results in them realizing that maybe they could actually create Decepticon that now, since Fix-It will have someone to work with and Danny will have someone to work with, they can work on creating all sorts of awesome inventions. And they realize that, you know what we're going to do first? We're going to create Decepticon hunters for every single one of the Autobots, which is awesome, because I mean, you're getting new weapons. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's happening, so it's really exciting. So anyway, getting back to what was happening with Strongarm and B, They eventually end up tailing what do you call it? Springload, and Springload and while this is happening, Springload ends up shooting off some acid at B, and B gets covered in it, and then Strongarm finally agrees that, okay, B, I want you to help me, and that's a big deal. So B's very happy at that point, and we'll find out why later. So anyway, following this, they end up tailing Springload. Springload tries to speak to the spirits over and over again. The spirits aren't doing much, but then Strongarm and B come from behind. They begin to see like a box that they could put Springload in and bring him back to the base to put him in a status pod. Anyway, what happens is that Strongarm goes behind one of the relic statues or whatever and pretends to be the spirits of the temple, and she begins to push it towards Springload, and Springload gets really scared, and then from behind Bumblebee comes, grabs the top layer of the boxes, of one of the boxes, and puts Springload inside one of the boxes, closes down on it, and then Strongarm and B sit on top of it and begin to talk to one another while Springload is underneath them. And that is when B explains why he would, like, one of the things that was great about what she did today, which was the fact that she showed something that was very important, which is the fact that she put her pride aside and she asked for help. And that's a big deal, because putting your pride aside means that you're not, like, you could act all cocky and you could think, oh, I'm the greatest thing ever, but if you are willing to show maturity and actually ask for help and not act like a tough guy that thinks he's the best thing ever, you're showing that you really are mature. And that's what that whole entire concept was, and that's how he considers her mature. And it's smart, it's a good concept. So anyway, this episode pretty much ends from here. It's a pretty good episode, I would say. Overall, just it seems like for me, I mean, would I say it's anywhere near as exciting as the previous episode? No, definitely not anywhere near as exciting as episode 8, but it was a good episode. I would say this is probably one of the weaker episodes, personally. It's not a bad episode, but it's definitely a weaker one by a lot of means. But it's still a good episode. It's still a very good episode. It's just, it's not, like, you know, there's really, like, the Decepticon for this episode isn't really that exciting. He doesn't have, like, the most exciting design ever. His abilities aren't the most exciting. He's very, very he's not very interesting. He doesn't have some major scheme going on. I mean, he's a relic hunter. That's all he is. I mean, that's not bad, but it's kind of boring. Like, there's been other ones that have had actually interesting stories. I mean, I would say Terra Shock was awesome. I mean, you know, Thunderhoof was cool. Steeljaws is a pretty major character. I mean, Steeljaws is a pretty major character. I mean, Underbite had a pretty interesting story. I mean, Hammerstrike was pretty interesting. I mean, there's been so many other ones. Minitron was definitely interesting. I mean, there's been a lot of interesting characters. I would not say that Springload was all that exciting. Springload was like, I mean, he wasn't bad, but he wasn't anything to say, oh my god, Springload, gotta love that character. Like, he was okay, but he wasn't anything that I would say, oh my god, you're amazing. That's all I can say. I mean, did I like this episode? Yes, but would I say it's like, it's one of my favorite episodes, and Springload, and would I say Springload is like one of my like, would I say it's one of my favorite episodes? No. But would I say that Springload is one of my favorite Decepticons in this show? No. Personally, I would say that he falls low, and this episode falls pretty low on the scale of favorite episodes and the scale of favorite Decepticons that have been featured in this show. Very much so. So anyway, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Also, check out all the other awesome content on this channel. There's a lot of really great stuff. And also, maybe if you want to go back and view the previous episodes that I've done for Transformers, Robots in Disguise 2015, you know, I've done all each of them so far that have come from this point. So, you know, we're at episode 9 here. So, you know, 1 through 8 are definitely on this channel. So anyway, guys, look into all that awesome stuff, and remember, guys, to keep on watching, and I can't wait to see you guys in whatever video I make next. And remember, guys, to always stay awesome, and I will see you guys in my next video. So goodbye.